Hello and welcome back to session 6 of learning about mindfulness. So quickly recapping on last week, we talked about worries. What a worry is, it's just really a story that our mind's made up. Worries are a type of thought. We learned that thoughts are not facts. Despite what our mind likes to tell us, thoughts are not facts. We learned that everybody worries, and unfortunately sometimes worries can get out of control if they start quite small. Like that fire, they can build and build and build, and then they're out of control. And we talked about what we can do with our worries. We can write them down, we can share them by telling someone, we can send them away, imagine them leaving our minds, and we can do breathing practices because that helps us to think more clearly and see things more clearly. So we also talked about the worry tree. There are some worries we can do things about and some we can't, and it's knowing the difference and working out which ones we can't do anything about. So we send them packing, and then if we do have a worry we can do something about, then we make a plan. Okay, so I'm really excited about this session because we're going to be focusing on being happier, about growing our happiness. So we'd all like to be happier, and mindfulness can help us feel happier. So we focused quite a lot on wobbling and worrying and dealing with difficulties and our amygdala and being on alert. But mindfulness can also help us to feel happier, which is great. So our brain, and we've talked about this in different sessions, is amazing. Okay, so our brain is always changing. So it's a bit like plasticine, and there's a special word for this called neuroplasticity. Have a go at saying it. If you know that word, it's very impressive. Neuroplasticity. So our brains aren't just rigid, they change, and all throughout our lives. So if we can train our brains to work the way we want them to, then that's great. So if you start to think happier thoughts and more positive thoughts, that part of your brain, the bit that all the messages go across, then the sort of it travels across. You've got all these sort of connections in your brain, and if you start to think happier thoughts, that connection gets bigger, 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 and before you know it, you're thinking more positively and happier more often. Just by thinking happy thoughts and more positivity, this makes that connection get bigger and bigger. And then before you know it, you suddenly think, I'm much more positive and happier. So we can really change the brain and the way it works by doing mindfulness. So that's amazing. So how can we become happier? Now, one of the ways, and this has been proven, is if you're grateful, you tend to feel happier. What do we mean by grateful? Grateful means being thankful, being glad to have something, to being thankful, appreciative, joyful about having things in your life, and being grateful for those things. So one thing you can do is make a mindfulness jar. So you could have a big jar, put a hole in it, and have that by your bed. And at the end of the day, you could write down some things in the day that you're grateful for. And it could be quite simple things. So if you've had a delicious dinner, you could write that down. If you had a really nice chat with your friend, write those things down, put them in the jar, and then your jar will get fuller and fuller. And then maybe when you're not feeling great or you've had a bit of a low day, you can start pulling out some of the things you're grateful for, and that will remind you how many things you've got to be grateful for, and that improves your happiness. Something else you can do, and I've made one here, is a grateful hand. So at the top I wrote, I am grateful for, and I started to fill up my hand with some of the things I'm grateful for. So I've got yoga, books, films, family, mindfulness, nature, all sorts of things. And I could have kept filling this up. And it doesn't have to be just the things, the big things. It can be quite small things. So I was thinking, I have underfloor heating. I'm very lucky to have that, and I'm grateful for it. So when I come down on a cold morning, the floor is warm, and that is lovely, and I'm grateful for that. So it can be the tiniest of things, it can be the big things like having clean water to drink. I mean, that's huge, and that's something we should all be grateful for. And the more we do this, we just think, wow, there are so many things to be grateful for. You can look out the window and see trees and flowers. I have flowers, they make me happy. So many things to be grateful for that we have. And the more we recognize this and the more we focus on it and think about it, then the happier we feel, because we feel lucky to have all these things. And no matter what kind of day you've had, I bet you could find something to put in your grateful jar. Sometimes we think, oh, I've had a really bad day. But actually, when you really look at it, you think, okay, well, I did this one thing and that made me feel happy, and I feel grateful for that. Even if it's one thing, we can always find something to be grateful for. So that's something we can do to make ourselves feel happier, is be grateful. The other thing we can do, and I mentioned this before, is our mind is brilliant at time traveling. So we could actually use our mind to travel back to a time where we were really happy. And we're going to do that now. We're going to go on a bit of a time traveling adventure. So if you sit up nice and tall, get yourself comfy. It's a bit like a breathing practice. So we're going to have our eyes closed and just take 2 nice deep belly breaths, filling up the belly with air and breathing out all the way. One more time, big belly breath in and then out. So now I'd like you to think of a time you were really, really happy, feeling so joyful and happy. So take yourself back to that time. Really put yourself in that moment. Who was with you? Where were you? What can you see? So really put yourself back in that scene of being happy. What do you see around you? Who do you see around you? What sounds can you hear? So for example, if you were at a beach, could you hear the lapping of the waves and the laughing of people around you? Wherever you are in your happy place, what can you hear? What can you smell? Maybe say you're at a family barbecue, can you smell the delicious smell of barbecue? Whatever your happy thought is, where were you and what could you smell? What could you hear? Who was there? What could you see? So we're surrounding ourselves in the memory of this lovely moment. Now I'd like you to try and bring back the lovely feeling you had in that happy moment. Maybe feel it spreading throughout your body, that absolute feeling of being content, being happy, being joyful. Perhaps there's a smile on your face as you remember this happy time, because I bet you were smiling. Really just let those feelings spread throughout your body and your mind. And now open your eyes. So we can sometimes take ourselves back to a really happy time. And by doing that, it brings back the lovely feelings that we had when we were in that moment. So that's something else you can do to make yourself feel happier, is travel back in time to a really lovely moment. And because you were probably so happy, you were very present and in the moment. So you're more likely to really remember it. You'll remember the sounds and the smells and what you could see and feel and hear. So that's another way we can improve our happiness, is thinking of the times we've been really happy in our life and bringing those feelings back. Okay, moving on. Another thing that makes us feel happy is being kind. And this is a really important one, because if people were kinder, then the world would be a better place. Being kind helps us to feel happier because we're doing something for somebody else, and it makes the other person feel happy because you've done something for them. And kindness is catching. So maybe one morning, or on the way to school, somebody dropped something and you picked it up for them, and that person was really grateful for that, and then maybe they go off feeling much happier, and then maybe they do something kind for somebody else because they realized how nice it was for them. So I can tell you a little story actually that happened to my son. It was his birthday last week, and he went to a shop, and there was a woman in front of him, and he was with a friend, and the lady said to him, if one of you goes out and checks my dog's all right in the car, then I'll pay for some of your sweets, because my son had some sweets. And he went out and he checked on the dog, and the dog was fine, and he came back in and he said, don't worry, I don't want you to pay for anything, it's fine, and your dog's fine. And then she just said, you know what, I'm going to pay for everything. So she took everything from my son and his friend, and she paid for everything for them. And my son felt really nice because he'd done a good deed. He wasn't expecting anything for it. She was so grateful that she wanted to show them, so she bought them the sweets, and both of them probably left feeling much happier because they'd done something kind and they were also grateful. So that's a story how kindness is catching, and maybe my son went off and did something kind as well, and the woman had done something nice, and it does spread, so kindness is catching. So there's something you can do, I've done here. It's a kindness flower. So what you can do is write the name of somebody in the middle who you care about, and then in the petals you write something you like about that person. So I've written Dylan in the middle, and I've got brave, he's clever, curious, funny, caring. So I did that, and it made me feel nice because I was being kind about Dylan. And if you do that and you give it to the person, then they're going to feel really grateful and happy because you were being kind about them. It really is a lovely thing, and it's a power we all have, is to be kind, and it makes a huge difference to other people. So kindness is catching. Being kind makes us happier, makes others happier. So it's a bit of a win-win situation. Being kind can make us happier. So I just mentioned kindness is catching. Now, happiness as well is contagious. So if you're feeling in a great mood and really happy, generally that spreads around, and other people around you feel that too, because you're giving off this feeling of happiness, and people feel that and they feel happier too. Now, I've got a video to show you that really highlights this. So let's have a look about, this video is about happiness spreading. So you'll see there's some people here, they're setting up some hidden cameras in a bus stop, or it's a tram stop. And so there's one person who knows what's going on and none of the other people do. So it's a bit of undercover filming. So have a look. So here we go, that's what I was explaining. They're setting up some hidden cameras in the bus stop. And it's a Monday morning, so people probably starting their week, going off to work. And if you look at their faces at the start of this video, none of them look particularly happy. A lot of them are lost in either a book or in their phone, just looking at their phone, being distracted. But yeah, no one looks particularly happy, do they? Now see what happens. So this man has randomly started to laugh. You can see some people are starting to smile a little bit. Some are trying to ignore him. Oh, some people are really trying not to smile, aren't they? They're holding their lips. But look how much happier everyone looks. It's wonderful, isn't it? Their faces look much happier. I bet they feel great as well. Having a good laugh makes you feel really good. Making me laugh too. Just seeing other people laugh and happy, it does make you feel happier. And they all looked so much happier. And now they're told that it was a video. And I like that saying, when you smile to the world smiles back. So yeah, that guy was just laughing. He didn't say anything, but he laughed so much, it was catching, wasn't it? Did you notice that people were really trying not to laugh, very much trying to stay in their own little world? But then they let go, they laughed, and I bet all of them went off feeling so much happier for the rest of their day even, and maybe then that spread to other people. So kindness is catching, happiness is contagious. It's very much true that you can spread a bit of happiness and kindness. Okay, so we're going to finish off with a breathing practice, and I really like this one, and I think it works well with what we've been talking about, happiness. So it's called hot cocoa. So I want you to imagine now that you are holding a delicious, creamy, warm, hot chocolate. So start to imagine the warmth in your hands as you hold that lovely cup of steaming hot chocolate. My mouth's watering just thinking about it. So really imagine that smell of chocolate, so delicious. And what we're going to do with our breathing practice, we're going to pretend we're smelling that delicious hot chocolate. So give it a smell. And as we breathe out, It's like we're blowing it to cool it down. Okay, so start to close your eyes, still holding onto your hot chocolate, imagining how good it will taste. And now breathing in, smelling the hot chocolate, and breathe out, cooling it down. Breathing in, smelling the smell of chocolate, which is so delicious, and breathing out, blow, 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 so it's ready to drink. And final time, big sniff of the hot chocolate, and blow, blow, blow. And open your eyes. Now I wish I could drink it. So that's a really nice practice, because not only are we doing the lovely calming breaths, we're imagining something that would make us happy, which for me would be hot chocolate, definitely. So that's the end of the 6 sessions of telling you about mindfulness and how it can help you. And it's really nice that we've ended on this positive note, talking about happiness. Lots of things we can do to make us happy. And over these 6 sessions, we've learned so much. We've learned about our brain being like a puppy. We've learned about the fact we can train our brain to work better. We've got this lovely part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, which helps us to make good choices, and it helps us to concentrate and then to be our best. We've learned about the amygdala and the fight, flight, freeze response. We've learned about worrying and what worries are. We've learned about wobbling and how we can deal with difficulties when they happen. So we have learned so much. And today we learned about being happy. And being happy is really important, and there are things we can do to be happier. So what I didn't mention that's really important actually is you can do things you really enjoy. So if you're feeling a bit low, do something you really enjoy that you know makes you happy. So for me, that might be sit and do a bit of mindfulness, do some yoga. I love nature. So I'm lucky to have a dog, so I would go out for a walk and I will always feel better. So however you see nature, even looking out the window at nature, getting to the beach, going out into a forest, to a park, always makes us feel better. So good for us. If you like reading, just read a book. Like if you like Lego, all sorts of things that you could do to make you happy. And that's different for everybody, but whatever makes you happy, you do that, and make sure you do it as much as you can. So all sorts of things we can be grateful, and that really helps us to be happy. We can be kind, we can remember lovely happy times and bring those memories and those feelings back. And we can always do a breathing practice. It really does help to calm us. And when we open our eyes, we often feel happy because we've taken a break and we've looked after our minds, which is really important. So thank you for joining me for these sessions. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you have too, and I hope you found it useful. Do go back and look at the other videos. So if you know there's something coming up that's going to make you worry, go back and look at the worry video. If you need to remind yourself of anything, do go back and look at the other videos. And I hope you are happy wherever you are, and goodbye, and I hope to see you again. And I will hopefully be doing some yoga videos, so do join in on those, because yoga is also really great for our mind and our body. So lovely to have had you here, and take care now. Bye.